Hello, I'm Eran Solomon, and if I tell you I'm going to teach you music, your ears would probably prick up in interest. But if I tell you I'm going to teach you theory of music, probably energies would drop critically. This is all because of the trauma surrounding theory of music studies. The trauma stems, I believe, from wrong teaching methods, and because theory sounds really theoretical. How does knowing theory of music make me a better musician? But if you want to create music, if you want to improvise, and I believe if you want to play really well, you have to understand how music works. And there is wisdom there. And if that wisdom is there, music sounds well. And if music sounds well, it means that the wisdom of music is there. So let's dig in and start learning this wisdom. Music is the art of arranging sounds. Sounds are actually waves moving through matter, through the air, and like all waves, they have frequency. So if I hear this sound and this sound, the difference between those sounds, which we call the difference in pitch, is due to the change of frequency. For example, this sound has a 440 Hertz frequency, which means that an object moving 440 times to and fro, which vibrates, will emit such a sound. It's an A. But a C, which is just above that A, is a sound which has the frequency of 512 Hertz, 512 vibrations per second. Already in ancient times, sounds were given names. Actually, 7 names or 7 letters. In English-speaking countries, we just use 7 letters. The letters from A to G. Whereas this is A and B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A. In other countries, more related to Latin languages, like Italy, use more another method invented by a medieval monk named Guido d'Arezzo, who invented the names ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Ut was replaced by do after his time, and later si was so you would sometimes hear, or in other countries hear, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and then back to do. Now, before we come to actually writing notes, we just have to remember that when you go up the letters, you also go up in pitch. So, say the note B is really above A, and then C, and then D, and E, and F, and G, and then it repeats itself to infinity. And also going down, of course, below there is a G, and then an F, and then a C, etc., etc. So it goes up and down infinitely. Now, when we want to write those notes, we use the staff, these 5 laundry lines on which we hang our notes to dry. They're also a medieval invention, though their number changed. It wasn't always 5, but now the common method is to use 5 lines, whereas we have a kind of mark, a signature, which is called the clef. Actually, it comes from French clé. Clé is key, but in English we use key for another thing in music, so be wary not to confuse between the two terms. So this is called the staff, and on the staff we use a clef, which is a signature like this, which shows us, that's the most common clef, which tells us where the sound of G is on these 5 lines. So this, as you can see, I began drawing the clef from around this line. So a note written on this line would be a G. That's a G. Now, another thing Guido d'Arezzo, this medieval monk, invented in his time is that when we use these lines, the note which is above G will be one which is between the two lines. And so this note will be an A. And if you go further up, what would it be? Right, correct. That would be a B, etc., etc. And if we go down, the same. If we go down below, one below G is this note, which is an F. That's an F and an E. And we come to D. At this stage, I want to teach you another thing which is very, very important for theory of music, and that is familiarizing with the keyboard. The keyboard, the piano keyboard, is actually the most ingenious invention that was ever invented. It's the most ingenious map that was ever invented, through which we really can understand all the processes in music. So I always compel all my students to be familiar with the piano keyboard, even if they don't play keyboards, even if they don't play the piano. So I want to show you where these notes are on the keyboard, and that's really as important as knowing notes themselves. So the sound C, you know, its repetitions, of course, is the note that you hear when you hit this key on the keyboard. Again, another use of the term key, which must not be confused with the key of the musical piece. So this key is called C, and the one which is on its right is called is the D, and then the E and the F, G, A, B, and then of course we come back to the C. So it's the white key which is on the left of the two blacks, because if you look at the keyboard you see that we have two black keys, and then three, and then two, and then three and two, etc., etc., to infinity. So C is always the one which is on the left of the pair of blacks, which is here. And I have to notice that on the keyboard, when you go up, when the pitches go up, it's actually going to the right. And when pitches go down, it's going to the left. Now, the notes which are between, the black notes which are between the two whites are called accidentals. And it is now enough to say that this black key is slightly higher than C and slightly lower than D. Therefore, it is either named as a C which is slightly higher, and then it will be called a C sharp, or it could be related to as a D which was lowered. So then it would be called a D flat, and so on. Now, when we talk about actual pitches, this note, this A, for example, that note in the G clef, which is that sign, is actually 440 hertz. And that's indeed that sound, because there are many A's in different frequencies. Now, what happens when we come to the note D? And we want to write, so for example, that D here. If we want to write the C which is below that, we could have written it like this, and taken a little further, and taken it a little further down from the D, and the one below that a little further down. But of course, reading notes would be impossible like this, because we would lose our way. How far down this is exactly from this D. So when the note digresses from the staff, we use a little line which is actually an imaginary extra line in the staff, and from that imaginary line we take a little line like that, and we write the sound on it. So, for example, if that was the D, then the C below that is that. and C. So I want to keep it short. So this is our first lesson in theory of music. And what have we learned today? We have learned about the meaning of sound, what sound actually is, and how we write sounds on the G clef. We have learned about the names of the notes in English-speaking countries especially, and also where the sounds are situated on the piano keyboard. Hope you enjoyed it. See you for now.